Okay. Hey, welcome back to the Baller Diaries.
Today we're here with our training buddy and former AAU teammate, Shay Ciezki.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so to start off, just tell us a little about where you're at, what you've been doing the last few weeks. Just give everybody a little intro into your life.
Okay. So I played at Penn State for 2 years, and I recently just transferred to Indiana and spent the summer down there, and I'm gonna be there for two years, and then I'm done. That's a little bit. That's it.
Okay, great.
So we were all in the transfer portal at the same time too, which was unplanned. Kind of all just happened for our own reasons, but that's gonna give us a little bit to talk about today.
Yeah, so basically we're just curious, like, how was the transfer portal for you the second time, like the first time around? You know,
how was your second recruiting process?
Yeah, the second there. It was crazy, I would say, like, because I always heard so many stories about the portal, like, you know, people going in, not getting picked up, or like having 1,000 phone calls in like one day. But as soon as I went in, obviously like school started contacting me, and then I think the easiest part was like I knew what I wanted. Mm-hmm. Like that's like how I just kind of cut my list down from like the jump instead of talking to like 40 schools. Like I knew exactly what I wanted, and it just made sense for me to ask like just like straight up like pretty like blunt questions. Mm-hmm. And I mean it's not really like first time around, like as a high school student you're like, what's your favorite color? Mm-hmm. Like what's your favorite animal? Like now it's just like, all right, like where do you see me fitting in the offense? Like what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? Like what do you see? And like honestly by the first conversation, like you can already like tell like yes or no. Like is this gonna work? Is this not gonna work? So like it was maybe like 2 weeks. I think it was 2 weeks that I like made all the calls, went on my visits, and chose Indiana. So it was like a very fast process instead of like, you know, obviously like the first time around where it's like months and years of like building these relationships. It was very different, but.
Did you know, like, you talked about the criteria that kind of like your first round of like what you knew what you wanted. Mm-hmm. Did you know you wanted to stay kind of like at that level or higher, or did you consider anything like did you consider going down at all, or were you kind of laser focused on like going up?
Yeah, I kind of knew I wanted to go Big Ten ACC. Okay. Like that was like my two conferences that I was like, all right, like it's gonna be this one or this one. Okay. So like that also like made my list like pretty specific in the school I talked to. Right. But yeah, it was like that was like the biggest thing for me. Okay. The two conferences.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. And then how did you like what would you say is the biggest difference between like how other than like the pace at which it moves between like, you know, we talk about like with NIL and stuff, like how did you see NIL working into this process, whereas before like our years like NIL was not a thing, like our first time around getting recruited, like there was no mention of money, like you were getting a full scholarship and that was it. So like now, like especially at your level, like what do you think was the difference between like high school versus now the portal?
Yeah, I think it's completely different. I mean, it changed the whole recruiting game. I mean, I don't even think I had a conversation about money in high school. I don't know about you guys.
No, we didn't.
Like money just was never even talked about. It was like the money was your scholarship and that's it.
And honestly, scholarships weren't even really like talked about because it was at the D1 level. Like a lot of other sports, you negotiate your scholarship contract, but with men's and women's basketball, it's like you're getting a full scholarship. You're either a walk-on or you're a full scholarship player. So once that first offer is out, like money is no longer ever talked about. It's you get a full ride. You don't even know like what the full ride is ever. Like I never knew what my tuition was worth. Yeah, it's just you have an offer.
$2,000 or $20,000. I had no clue.
And technically like every offer was worth more or less, but that just had to do with tuition rates at the school. Like it had nothing to do with your basketball. But yeah, now it's like money and NIL and like deals and stuff, and it's completely aside from the scholarship.
Yeah, completely aside. And at that point I was like full ride, like school paid for, like it's awesome. Now it's just like, yeah, we can offer you X amount or whatever just to like come here. Right. Not even like apart from the scholarship, like this is just what you can put in your pocket. So like that was just like something like crazy to me to hear that for the first time. I'm like, whoa, like this is like a huge part of like recruitment now. But when I was in the portal, like, I mean, this might sound cliche, but like that was like the last thing on my priority list, like I didn't care if I was offered $0 or $1 million. Like at that point in my life, I think it was just like I needed to find the love of the game again, and like that's where I was. Like I was like I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing, like honestly. So it was like trying to figure out like what school could really help me, like kind of just like build myself back up again with the love of the game and just who I was as a person. So like for me, money was like not like it wasn't really a factor like at all. Like I don't even know if I talked money a lot with coaches. Like that, like I didn't bring it up at all. But I mean, it just kind of like casually comes with the conversation.
It's also part of their recruiting pitch.
Exactly.
Like they're trying to separate themselves with their way they can do that.
So, here's a question. I mean, obviously, like you said, like you didn't ask about it first, but was there a time, like, was that money negotiable? Like, in a sense of, like, let's say you called X school and said, oh, I'm hearing from this, and they heard what they offered you. Would they come back and say, oh, we'll give you 10K on top of that? Was there any negotiation once, like, between schools? You know what I mean? Like, was
because I've heard stories about that. Like, from other
there's
coaches.
there's negotiations.
Okay.
And so does that have
so
to
it's kind of like a bidding war for the players.
But does that have to come from you, or does that come from, like, word of mouth coaches? Like, do you have to go to, like, do you have to come to me and say, Ella offered you more, can you raise it? Or is it like, oh, we've heard through 12 other coaches that Ella offered you this, now we'll reach?
Both. Yeah, so I mean, I've heard horror stories with players like literally just going back and forth between two schools and just saying like, hey, they're offering me X amount, what do you got? They're offering me this amount, what do you got?
That's crazy, because then you just become an employee. Like, at that point, I would be like, obviously the money matters, and that's like life changing for certain people.
My gosh.
Like, it's setting you up for life. But on the other hand, it definitely changes the like emotional aspect. Or I would at least assume if you're just sitting on the phone with two coaches being like, they're offering me this, they're offering me this, it's like I don't know, that I feel like that would give me an identity crisis. Like once I got there, that I was worth like
just
that amount. I was worth the money.
Aren't we employees anyways? Like then again, like we're technically employees in the sense that like either way, like when I go to school, yes, let's say I'm not worth the money that's put in my pocket, but I'm still worth a certain amount of money to the school. It's just, it feels like it's more like, it brings more power to the athletes though, because at that point then, that money, like you're always worth a monetary value but instead of it, the money being monetary value to the school, it's to you. Like that's your pocket money.
So I think it'll be
a power dynamic.
I think it's interesting though, because with the new, like, well not new, but it was new when I got to college, like the contract rule of like you're signed for 4 years, like you're because before it used to be year. Like if I was the first year that signed a 4-year contract, at least I'm like
really,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm like honestly, I think there was more leeway in them being able to pull scholarships. Like you heard people say like I lost my scholarship. Like, you can't do that anymore. You can only do that if you like violate NCAA rules. You can only get kicked off a team for like crime or like. It's not, you can't just be a bad basketball player and get kicked off your team. But with like NIL stuff and like money, that can be taken away. So I feel like that changes. We're like, we're set in stone in our money, but the negotiation ends the day we sign a contract.
Yeah.
Whereas like with money now in the NIL space, that's a 4-year ever changing. So like, can you talk about that a little bit? How like you know that at the end of the year it could potentially change depending on how you play.
Yeah, 100%. I mean. Once again, it's a business at the end of the day. Like, I mean, sad to say, I mean, you do make great relationships, but it is a business. So say a player gets X amount of money before the season, right? And then they play and they have a great year. The beginning of the next season, they can get offered more money and they can sign that and get that money. But also it could go the opposite way. They didn't have a great year. It's just not what they thought that would happen, the school thought it would happen, the coaches, whatever, and they could, take a cut and, go down how many dollars or whatever amount. So, I mean, it really depends, like, year to year, like, how you play.
I think it's great because, on the one hand, people have been arguing for college athletes to make this amount of money, and that's really great, like I said, it's life-changing money, but on the other hand, I really think all it's doing is making college athletes early professional athletes. And now the only thing that like, not that I worry about the future of athletes, because like I'm out of this in a year, that's really not affecting my life. But like, I think there's some worry about like 18-year-olds are now dealing with the financial and emotional responsibility that like adults do as professions. Like
Yeah.
I think there was almost a protection. Like it's like money is a protection in one sense, but there was also a protection of just making no money. Like just go play college basketball, have fun. Now you can make it. So like on the one hand, it really is so life changing, so amazing. People are providing for their families at 18 years old. That's phenomenal. But on the other hand, like you now are 18 worrying about the money. Like whereas you could just go to college, have a free education and worry about it in 4 years. But now it's putting the like mental health, emotional like stressors 4 years earlier. And on people at lower levels, people that were never going to play professionally.
And
now they're dealing with that.
Correct.
Yeah, and you know, and like that's another thing too of like I remember sitting in AAU tournaments and being stressed. Like I'm like, oh my god, this coach. And the only thing and I say the only thing, but the thing that was riding on my playing was like, okay, my parents like, you know, they sacrificed so much for me to play AAU. Like that was like a pressure, and like I wanted to do well. I wanted to get a scholarship to school because like that was it. Like I had to get a scholarship. Right. So like my education, but like now you hear these like you're saying these stories, these people who like genuinely like they have to provide. So they're like maybe now the landscape is you're 15, your mom's saying not only do you have to get a scholarship, but
you
like,
need to get to a certain level.
Yeah, or even if your parents aren't telling you that, like you know, you're old enough that you can tell when you're a teenager like where your situation is. Like you internalize those things. Like that pressure now not only is about you going to college, now that pressure is that coach walks off the court and you could have just lost $100K to your family.
Right.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah. And at the
like
prime age
14,
of 14.
At 14,
right.
15.
And like not to take away from like the emotional feelings of anybody who goes through an injury at a school who's not being paid. But now I feel like there's even more stress to keep your body healthy because like once I signed, and if I got hurt freshman year, which like obviously didn't happen, now I'm a senior, but like I had my scholarship for 4 years. Even if I medically retired the first day of my summer session as a freshman, nothing changed for me financially. Like I was still gonna get any stipend I got because that was through the school. It wasn't through NIL. I'm still getting my scholarship because that's already signed in contract. But if you're a freshman committing to the top program in the country and you get hurt your day one, that changes your course of action. Like if you're, I mean, like, hopefully there's definitely coaches out there that are going to take that into account and still provide for you. Like I know coaches have done certain things, like even at lower levels of just like giving you black shirts, which means like you can redshirt your whole career. You never play, but you still keep your scholarship, even if you like stay off the team. So I'm sure there's coaches out there that still negotiate money and money's still signed in your contract, but it's like now there's just an emotional burden on the money at such a young age, especially for freshmen. Like it's different when like you're an upperclassman, like you're already going through it. But I'm just thinking about like as this grows, like there's freshmen coming into this that's like a completely new space that they've never been at before. Like it's already been a little bit on the men's side, and I wonder how that's affecting men. Like I don't have any like close relationships with men that are at high programs that I know anything about, but I just feel like it's gonna be new. Like there's gonna be mental health studies about this in like 10, 15 years.
Honestly,
like it's gonna come out.
There might be like in a couple years, or I don't know, 5, 10, there are probably gonna be rules too, like saying like, I don't know, maybe you can't offer X amount anymore, or like because it's just gonna keep going up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's just
I had a professor whose like argument was college athletics is gonna be gone in a few years. Like it's no longer gonna be. It's like you're still gonna go to college, you're still gonna get your degree, and you're gonna be playing, but the landscape is gonna look completely different because of the money. So like it's not gonna have the same like appeal or vibe for athletes our age that it does. It's gonna turn into like professional. It's gonna turn into like the degree really does not matter at all. Maybe you're only taking online classes and you're like fully only an athlete. Like
so okay, here's a question, because then that goes into like in order to keep our scholarship, we have to have a certain like we have to adhere to rules in the classroom, right? So there's an incentive to go to class because you could lose your scholarship. Can you lose your collective money if you're not going to class, or does that not matter? Like, is there any rules for collectives, like that money they offer you from the portal? Can you lose that from stuff in the classroom? Like is there an incentive to even go to class? Like I really don't know. I mean, I feel like it would be by school. Yeah, like I feel like it would have to be like let's say, well, the Ivy Leagues don't give out money, but let's say the Ivy Leagues give out money. I feel like they would have a certain standard than like the SEC football players.
That's true.
Like there's probably different rules.
Yeah, and plus like the collective is different from like say like basic NIL stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So like if I started like I don't know signing with this company over here with like something to do with makeup, or like I don't know, like a food company or something that, I mean, obviously that I don't have to go to class to.
Right, that has
So
nothing to do.
it
That's
has
just
nothing
your
to
personality.
do. Yeah, but I don't know, with the collective, it, like you said, it's probably different with every school.
And it is so new on the women's side. Like,
Yeah.
collectives for the men, like the minute NIL opened up, which was like maybe the year before I got there, but honestly, I really want to say it was my freshman year. Like, collectives were immediate for the men's side. Now collectives are newer on the women's side, and they're growing, and you got like lower programs are getting them, and it's just new. Like there's gonna be rules that are not in place now, like you said. And even as I was going through every single year, the NIL meeting, our like NIL director, whatever, would come in with new rules, like every single year. Like I think it was my sophomore or junior year, states signed off that each state has their own NIL rules. And so like Virginia like opened itself up to like the federal rules. So now they were no longer like state rules, but there's certain states that have their own guidelines of what you can do. And so like literally just within the last 3 years, it's completely changed. So like the next 3 years, like who knows what's gonna happen.
It'll completely change again.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
crazy.
again, and then again, and again.
Yeah.
So like when they talk about so collectives of they like how, because I've heard horror stories of people getting offered a certain amount of money in promised NIL. Someone goes to that school, they never see a penny. So how does collectives differ from that? Like that's like when you sign to the school, you sign. Is it like you sign your NLI, your national letter of intent, and then they offer you the second page and it says, "Oh, sign here," and you're guaranteed this from the collectives, or is that still like up in the air of like, you know what I mean? Like, is it like with part of your thing that you sign? For sure, like you absolutely know you're getting that money.
Yes. So like it's a contract that they'll print out a contract for you, obviously, to say, you know, that you're gonna get X amount of money, whatever. And then you sign that. So like that is stated right there that no matter what happens in that year, you're going to get that.
But only for that year.
Only for that
year.
For that year. So like for example, like we have at Indiana, we have two like very big collective like organizations. We got like, it's called Hoosiers Connect and then Hoosiers for Good. So it's like, you know, I'll sign a contract for each of them, and it's like, you know, for this one, like you'll have to make, you know, this Instagram post or this like Twitter post or whatever the case may be. And like that's like the NIL, like that's like our part in doing, like we'll put on camps, like we have different like events that like we'll show up at and talk to people and donor supporters, like that all falls into like, you know, into the collective basically. Like we don't just wake up and get you know, money in our pocket for doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
Like there's like stuff that goes into it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't basically it wasn't like just like here's a check. It was like
Correct.
this is what you're promised in doing all of these.
This is what you're gonna have to do when you sign this.
Okay.
Like you're mandatory showing up to these events.
Right.
When you're doing that.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And and honestly, like it's meeting like our supporters. So
Right.
it's not like it's just like
and it's honestly the stuff that we were also mandated
Right,
to do.
yes,
But I also went to
we
events
also do
and
that,
posting, and it's just it's different. Like because like I said, our men's team at Richmond had that, and so you know monthly you'd see the I support Spiders collection, whatever, and it's them like just posting a photo. And we also were at the same event that they were at the night before, but they're making money and we're not making money just because it wasn't on the women's side yet. And so it's great that it's on the women's side now. Like that's really, and it's like Richmond's probably gonna get it in the next few years too. Like that level is gonna be like the A10 and the MAC. Those are gonna be the schools that are getting it next. And so like the moral of the story is that it's really just like it's ever changing and it's gonna be like complete. Like college basketball is just not gonna be the same, and it wasn't the same when my sisters played or even when your sisters played.
True.
Yeah. But at the same time, part of me is just so like it. Like all of this is like okay, the stress, like the pressure. But like it's so like I'm not even like this. Honestly, all of this stuff has pretty much zero effect on me. Where at the level that I'm playing at, like so for instance, like me, like when I like that's why it's funny because like when I went to the portal, like I knew that I was getting a full scholarship. Yeah, okay, I would maybe get like a couple grand different school just by like cost of attendance or something. Like I knew that there was some leeway, but for the most part I knew I
wasn't gonna be
there was no
Mm-hmm.
school, like I had no school that was gonna offer me that was gonna be like, oh, life changing, like that was gonna factor my
It's
decision.
just like, what type of t-shirt am I buying
But the
today?
same, right. It's like, am I eating out to eat 3 times a week or once?
grocery,
You know,
yeah.
am I going to Wegmans for grocery or am I going to Aldi?
Right.
You know, like either way, it was kind
Am
of.
I getting the dupe on Amazon or am I
Right.
getting
Yeah. It wasn't exactly like, you know, am I getting a new car?
Right.
You know? But my thing is like, for me, like, if I was offered, like, let's say this random school came into the mix and was like, hey, you're what we need, you know, we need like a decent shooter at mid-major D1 school.
Okay, decent.
All right, an average basketball player.
They're like, we want you, Ella Wongser, right now at this ACC school, and they offered me a ton of money, like that would and knowing like that's
Where are
like
you
me
going?
No,
I could back you
but
up.
okay, because like my thing is like for me, if that was offered to me, I'm taking that in a minute.
Oh yeah,
I'm
no,
sitting
me too.
bench because like that's
I
life
joke
changing
about that
money.
every day. I got the
because
portal.
like, and that's the thing, like that's horrible to say, like, because I know that you're like, oh, but like for me, like, yeah, like that would be like life changing, and like for like, and like that's something that like, yeah, I'm like a lot. I feel like most people are kind of in that position of like, you know, like, shoot. Yeah. If I can get $0 and be like, you know, kind of struggling, like I work all summer, whatever, when I'm not in summer session, and like that's, you know, like we were like a lot of athletes still have like even on full scholarship, I worked part-time on campus. Like a lot of like half my team at my undergrad all had part-time jobs on campus on top of our living, all these things that we got. Like it's still like a full scholarship plus living and stuff is still not covering everything. And like in order for, and like, and some people, like there are people who have to send money home and stuff, and like that's a burden that like in people, and like car expenses, like that type of stuff that like, yeah, if I was offered life-changing money, I'm taking it. But like that's the thing that's like so interesting.
That's
like,
why it's taking away the like emotional side of choosing a school. It depends on the league. Like obviously everyone who's making like the crazy amount of money, every school they were looking at realistically was offering them some kind of money. Like if you're looking at the ACC and the Big Ten, like all the schools are getting something. But it's the difference of like, like the mid-major players who potentially could reach that school, or they stay local, or like not local but in their level. Like maybe I got one offer that was there, but the rest were here. So then it's like, do you give up your basketball like playing dreams to take that one school that you're not gonna play at?
Because think about it though, like that, like that's a really, because at the end of the day, like basketball is a business on the coaching end. So we, like as players, like we got to take the autonomy to say it's a business on our end too. Like basketball, yes, I play because I love it. But also like for me, it's also a means to an end. Like I have to be realistic about the fact that like, yes, basketball is great and I love it. And I would play, like I would love to say I would play for no scholarship, but like at the same time, like I do need that scholarship. I do need like all these things of like setting myself up for like being financially stable out of college. Like that money, like that's putting into your savings. That's a down payment on a house when you're graduating. Like some people are getting off, like that's really tough. Like that's a lot to think about at 16.
That's what I'm saying. It's different when we're talking about at the portal, but it's like this is happening for like young kids. And I sound old saying young kids.
No,
and I hate
that, right?
Yeah, but no, they're serious.
I'm the oldest on my team now. No, guys, I'm so serious. Like now I'm the oldest on my team, and I literally catch myself saying like the most old person things of just like you're young. Like I literally was making a joke the other day. Like I genuinely don't think that 16-year-olds should be behind the wheel sometimes. Like that's crazy. I know, but like when I was 16, I was like, give me the keys. Like let me drive. I got this. Like you. Like every age you're at, you feel capable of what's in front of you, but at the end of the day, when you get older, you look back and you realize you weren't. Like, how was I capable of choosing where to go to school? Like for your, like that's 4 years ahead of you. Like that's where so many people transfer.
All of us are in a portal. Yeah, you're making a decision when you're 15 and a half, and all you care about is being close to your family, and then you make a decision, and now you're 4
or
years
like
in,
for
you're
me,
21,
I was like, I'm getting out. I did not even consider a school within 5 hours. Like my radar was 5 hours outwards. I'm going.
So you just
canceled
all of those.
Yes,
schools.
there was that. Every single Buffalo school that called me, like, no, thank you. Like it was automatic no. And like now I'm not saying I still wouldn't have wanted to go to Buffalo, like in the area. I wanted to get out. I'm glad I got that experience, and I ended up staying far away too for the portal. But like, it's things like that where I was just like, I am getting out of here. I'm so independent. I'm so cool. Like, I'm going away. There's kids that find themselves in California, and now they're a whole different time zone away from their family just because they thought it would be cool to go far away. And now you're dealing with the repercussions of making that decision at 15 or 16. Like, that's crazy. And like we've said in past episodes, like, it worked out. Like, and it works out for a lot of people, and everyone does it. So it's not like there's one 15-year-old out there who's unique for committing at 15. Like, almost everybody is committing at 15 or 16, 17 if you're, like, really late. But it's really insane. Like, now looking back on that, I'm like, that you're a baby. Like, you're small. And if you're 16 out there, like, feel empowered, feel strong, feel old.
We're just like,
sure.
You don't know anything.
Feel mature, because, like, don't let us say that you're not ready, because every single person who told me that I wasn't ready at the time, I felt ready, and you do have to feel ready. Like, you do have to feel ready, because if you don't feel ready, then you're not going to be. Like, you do need to own that, but just know that you're going to look back one day and realize, like, maybe you shouldn't have been driving at 16.
Because, you know what the crazy thing is? I made a decision about where I'm spending my whole undergrad at the same time that I wanted a flame tattoo going around my freaking bicep.
Like,
what?
And it's honestly really stressful, because I even think back to, like, me sitting in school. I have my notebook, and I'm writing down all my schools, because, like I said in past episodes, I had all my to-do lists, and I'm writing, like, okay, if I go to this school, I'm majoring in this, which means that I'm going to be this career, which means I'm going to have this amount of money, which means I have this amount of kids. And if I go to this school, like, I was literally, like, planning out, like,
I was going off of vibes. I was like, I don't know. I'm so
no, I was literally like, oh my gosh.
I was like, look at this gym. I'm so.
No, like, I was really.
See, I'm right in the middle between you guys.
I was fully, like, planning, like, if I major here, like I remember even at Richmond, because at the end of the day, I kind of committed off of vibes, because Richmond had a lot of degrees, but I actually had no idea what I wanted to do. Every other school, I had my degree, like, this is the degree I'm getting if I go to that school. Richmond was the one where I was like, I actually have no idea what I'm going to do if I go here. So I ended up committing off of vibes, but then when I got there, I'm not going to lie to you, I had a whole life crisis my freshman year, because I was like, what am I going to major in? Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, did I choose the wrong school? I have no idea what I want to major in now, because it just doesn't have the stuff that I had.
What is your major?
Sports marketing.
Okay. In undergrad, I forgot.
Was that at Penn State too?
No, at Penn State, I was undecided for 2 years.
So you got out right before you have to make a decision.
That's
because you have to make, for those who don't know, you have to declare your major by end of your sophomore year.
Yeah.
And then switching majors is
very hard. Did you have any transfer issues, or no, since you were undecided, so you weren't really specialized yet? You were just
it really wasn't like, I didn't have issues, but it was just, with the schools I had, like my top 3 schools that I had, like, obviously going in the portal, Indiana was probably like the hardest one to like just transfer credits with and like try to figure out a major. But at that point I was just like,
you'll figure it
like,
out.
I'll figure it out, like,
because that is the hard part about transferring undergrad that we didn't have to deal with. I got to just select whatever grad program I wanted. They waived the fact that I needed 7 years of work experience to get into the master's that I'm currently in.
What?
Yeah. I'm filling out
7 years.
7 years of work.
But you're in college.
No, but you, like, my master's program is for professionals. Like, you are like I'm only in classes with grown-ups. Which, like, most master's programs you are. Like, my sister's in a master's program. She's in college. But, like, technically, my sister's only 4 years out of college. Yeah, she's 4 years older than me. Like, she technically would not be able to get into my program if she just applied on her own. And when I was filling out the questionnaires, it was like have your like bosses be references, and I had to do my professors, which like is fine.
Your boss would be.
And honestly, that's the fact. Like that's the perks of being a college athlete. Aside from any of the money, like we said, we're at schools that aren't getting any money, but my perk is the fact that I'm in a Georgetown Masters that's for professionals as a college athlete. Like when I talk to the people I'm in group projects with, and I'm like, oh, I can't make the meeting, I actually have practice. Like, I feel so stupid because I'm like, they're working like 9 to 5, and I'm like, oh, actually, the one day you have off, no, sorry, because I have a 9 o'clock lift. Like, my bad.
I need to go pick and put down things. You have to solve world issues.
I have to go work on cricket rolls. I have to go make a few shots in the gym. Sorry.
Half of them have kids.
Yeah, no, literally. Like, so it's just there's perks wherever you go, which
that's true.
That's the good side of college athletics, and like all of the stressors that come with all the exciting things. Honestly, do the pros outweigh the cons? Like, we'll find out in a few years, because I'm so serious. I'm saying this right now. It's August 9th. If I look back in 10 years, there will be a psychological study on this.
Yeah.
There will be.
Yeah.
Like I'm
I mean,
working the day.
My sister's already doing research
Yes.
on this right now as a PhD student. Like she's already researching all the effects of like social media and NIL and stuff.
Yeah.
Which one thing to tell like people that might not understand. Can you just talk through really quick collectives versus NIL for people that maybe didn't watch the previous episodes and like how that and like you talk about too like some people on your team could be making a lot in NIL and less in collective versus like that type, like how is that, what is the breakdown of all of that?
Yeah, so I mean I just
Well, it seems like there was a thunderstorm.
First earthquake in Buffalo ever.
A 6.5 earthquake.
What the heck, bro? Like, I actually cannot stand. Like, if you're watching this, I think I'm gonna keep this in. I was gonna cut this out, but now I'm actually gonna keep this in. If you're watching this and you have the financial means to support us, to get us our own studio, please do. Because this is what we have to deal with. If you're really listening, if you're a really avid listener, you have your headphones on and the music stuff, or the volume stuff, you've probably already heard my dog bark. You've already heard a bunch of things. And now, no matter what the volume of that, you heard that. So please, sponsor us.
If anyone would like an NIL with us, please
reach out. Anyways, back
Continue.
to, so what is NIL?
Yeah.
Back to the collective. So I just learned this year. So basically collective is where donors, supporters, whoever wants to support your program and your sport, they give you money, they give the school money, that team money, and then from there the coaches can basically divide the money between the players. And then obviously that goes into NIL, and NIL is you can obviously make money on the side with different brands or organizations, and so those things they're together, but they're also separate.
And you have room in NIL to grow. Collections is really just your performance
exactly.
space.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. So I can make X amount with the collective, but I can make so much more in NIL.
And that you have to work for. That's your own.
That's your own.
And that's what we've
thing.
talked about in past episodes.
Yeah.
It's you have to grind for that. And it's not that you're not grinding for collectives, because like you said, you're still going to events, you're still posting.
Yeah.
But that's more in your natural work of a college athlete. NIL is separate.
Yeah. Or you could be like me and not do anything with that and just have the collective. Yeah. But I mean, I don't think that's smart at all. If you have the opportunity to make money just by making an Instagram post or making a TikTok, you might as well do it.
Yeah.
I'm just a little lazy.
That's so valid.
Because
I don't know.
if I was getting whatever,
if you're making money from basketball, I would just be well, I practiced. That's what made me money.
And also, I'm just not a social media person to begin with. So it's I'm not putting my life out there anyway. So imagine me now just being day in my life.
Right.
People are
you'd have to start from the bottom.
Yes. And then try to work my way up and stuff. And whatever.
Do people on the team, do you guys know how much collective NIL whatever money people are making?
No.
Absolutely.
We don't talk about it. I don't think anybody wants to talk about it. That's I think is a very personal just I don't know, just thing that we just keep to ourselves. I mean, it's just not locker room talk.
Okay.
I guess, it's just your own thing.
So it doesn't impact friendships, which I think is I think it would be worse if you did know, because it would feel
definitely.
It's already a competition in its own to fight for spots. It's already navigating friendships versus teammates competing, and if you're adding money, that's just gonna add a whole nother level.
Exactly.
So I feel it's definitely the best way to do that.
Yeah, just keep it under under wraps and not really talk about it, because again, if you do bring it up, now it's oh wait, you're making more,
right?
Or she's making less,
and it's just gonna cause drama.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And basically, the only thing we want to do is win at the end of the day.
Yeah, so you're still basketball players regardless of the employee status. That's been kind of
exactly the biggest thing for us is just to win a championship.
Right.
So money aside, that's the only thing we're worried about.
Yeah.
But
that's so interesting. I don't know. This whole talk is so interesting because Siobhan and I said it wasn't money is it's our scholarships are money. We were joking before the episode started that we found out we got an extra $100 off cost of attendance in our locker. Was let's go! We were hyped, and I'm now I'm finding out that people are making $500,000, $1 million
oh my
on
gosh,
I actually
signing collective. I'm
I wish we recorded I wish we recorded more behind the scenes because even as we talk about our topics for the episode, Ella finds out new things, honestly, with you guys. Like, she finds out a lot of stuff, like, 10 minutes before the episode, and I wish I could get your reactions when people are like, oh, yeah, like, this player got, like, 500,000, and she's like, what? Like, oh,
Yeah,
we're like, Ella, like, it's on Twitter.
I would literally buy a beach house. I would be like,
And
see,
that's
Disney,
probably
that's
why.
right.
That's probably
Yeah,
why. Like,
yeah.
you're at where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, because I would be bad with the money.
You'd be
I would
terrible.
I would be like just toss it out to
Right.
like people on the like homeless people
Yeah,
or something.
But that's
too,
also,
and
that
then
goes all the
I
way
would be
back to the
terrible.
fact that 18-year-olds are making this money.
Yeah.
That's honestly where we're gonna close it because 18-year-olds are now given all this money. That's why some people make stupid decisions. So like, there's gonna be the people that have $1 million homes right out of college because they were smart and they invested. There's gonna be people who are like the gambling addicts who lose all their money their freshman year because they just are
spend.
18. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So yeah, that's a good ending point. So Shay, do you have any last thoughts, last words of advice? We're big on sharing our personal advice and stories. So if you have any like motivational sentence or not, but any finally closing sentences.
I would probably say this has nothing to do, I guess, with, well, no, it does have to do with like NIL and stuff, but like everyone's journey is different. I mean, obviously we just talked about it today, how our journeys are different.
Yeah.
But whether you're like low major kid, high major, whether you're D2, D3, like everyone's journey looks different. And I mean, at the end of the day, like if you love basketball, you love basketball. Like don't let the money interfere with that, because now it's just gonna get bigger and bigger. But yeah, just keep basketball as your number one priority. I think that's like the biggest thing that you can do.
And school.
Yeah. And school, because we do
Student athletes.
we
Student
do
athlete.
Yeah, we're promoting the full,
Yeah.
well-rounded individual
Yes.
out here at the
Exactly.
Ballers.
Community service. Yep.
Be a good
Buffalo's
person.
finest right here.
Period.
I know, it's really crazy.
We-
We all started from the same spot, and honestly, it's like cool that her message was the journey. Because even when I was like doing mental notes about this episode, the first thing that was coming to mind is that all three of us really started
in the same.
at the same spot and have
We really
reached
did.
different spots in our lives, and we're all different ages, but I stayed, she's staying, they're gonna end up graduating at the same time. Like, it's just, we really all ended up back here, and yeah, everyone's journey is different, but everyone's journey matters. So it's just like
100%.
find out what works for you. Transfer, don't play college basketball, play college basketball. Like,
Yeah.
just figure it out for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for watching. We hope you come back next episode and that you enjoyed meeting Shay.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.